G'day and welcome to Uneducated Entrepreneurs. I'm Peter.
My name's Dan. Today we've got a special guest, Nathan, the man, the myth, the legend. He's about to be hopping right
Fingers crossed.
Before he jumps on, if you click right here, you'll be able to see last week's episode. It was a nightmare. It took about 12 hours to upload. And I just realised I'm looking down at my screen, not the phone. So
Yeah, Dan's got to learn about this whole streaming and services to the internet. He's
sorry for not having two screens. It's like I can't actually have my.
I'm not even looking at two screens. I've got two. I got a screen on this side and a screen on this side, and there's a camera in the middle that I stare at, which is at you guys.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey,
you're just getting some. You're just getting some ad lib whilst we wait for Nathan to hop in.
Maybe stuff that we can add. Maybe I should do. Maybe you should take a crop of this video, and so I can do. Hey, I'm Peter. I'm from Uneducated Entrepreneurs, and the one we have to
go for it. The one that I said you to do like 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't know what.
This is actually episode 6, by the way.
Oh.
We've done this. This is our 6th episode.
Come on, guys. Yeah. We've got to get at least one subscriber out there.
You have one subscriber. It's me on my other account.
I should subscribe. I'm not even subscribed to our own account.
Yeah, I know. He's so for this account that he's not even subscribed.
My issue is I've got a lot going on, guys. So I do run a business, obviously, as you guys know. And I
technically run like 2.
I do have how many staff have you got? Let's go turnover. Let's go revenue. Let's go profitability.
We can just. I was just trying to get on now. Easy.
Nathan.
Hey. Nathan's on. He got on. G'day.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you both?
Yeah, good. By the way, it's the older brother, not the younger one.
He's the older one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Actually, what did you say? You said he looked like he was looking a bit rough or something, and I was like, yeah, he still looks pretty rough, to be honest.
That's all right. That's all good.
How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad, Nathan. It's been a long time. I think it's been 10 years. Probably.
Really?
It would be.
That long?
Yeah, because you were down in Farm 5 when we were doing futsal. I was up in 4. And we were in 5 for like 9 years.
Wow.
And then, we were in like Farm 4 before that. So for those that don't know, me and Nathan used to live on the same block of farm at one point and used to play football.
So this is this is the infamous Nathan who happened to get COVID every time we tried to do an interview with him, and then was sick and then had to move his house. He's just full of excuses. It would lasted 2 weeks.
Yeah. Once. That's all right. These things happen.
You had to move though.
It's
yes, I do. I'm still moving.
Oh, that's right. But you're in a nice place now, aren't you?
I'll be heading off to work from here, and then one more night out at Diagula, and then into the new house.
Yeah,
that's
nice.
Exciting.
There you go. So, welcome, Nathan. It's good to have you on, finally.
Thank you.
The man, the myth,
We've
the
talked
legend,
about you a couple of times in different podcasts, and then we're like, oh, well, actually, Nathan's still sick, so...
Yeah, I think we had you...
Should I be looking at them before I...
Nah,
do this one?
That's all right. I mean, you can. Like, subscribe,
if you want
hit that bell, like the videos. We need all the help we can get. No, I think... Yeah. No, I think we had you penned in from about week 3 and we're on week 6 now. So we've talked about you the last 3 weeks.
I apologise.
It's not
your
your
fault. It has been
a
interesting few weeks.
So we've actually got
we've
got Nathan on, guys, because Nathan himself has a business and he's got a pretty incredible journey that he's gone through with businesses. He himself, I've chatted with Nathan a few times over the period about how he never planned on being a business owner in the very early days, and he's actually he's got a business called. Do you mind if I name it? Is that cool? We can put a link down to your website as well.
Yeah, we'll link it.
It's called Pledge Cleaning. Did I get that? Pledge Cleaning Solutions, or is it just Pledge Cleaning?
Pledge Cleaning Solutions.
So they do a whole range of different things from they do builders cleans and all of that sort of stuff. So you guys work in like from schools through to doing construction construction cleans and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, large variety. Yeah, quite a large industry. We try and keep things as simple as possible, but yeah, there's always work in different little corners of the industry to try out. So, but final cleans and commercial cleans would be our main.
Yeah. Whereabouts? What sort of area are you guys in?
Well, we sort of have two offices. We have one in my house, which is currently unknown.
Easy.
But on the north side of Brisbane.
Nice.
And then also one over at Wellington Point. So we cover from Sunshine Coast down to probably Loganholme for general work, but yeah, we do travel a little bit when
Oh, you come to Ipswich too. So these guys actually do cleaning for my business. So,
Yes.
and my business is in Red Bank Plains. So they come out to the Ipswich way as well, which is pretty cool. It's good. It's different having a remote workforce, isn't it? Like it's a whole different experience.
It's very different. I mean, I grew up working in a lot of factories and stuff, so it's very different. And you can't look over everyone's shoulder every second. You know, you've got up to 15 staff going different directions at times. So, yeah, it's very. Yeah, it's an interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, you'll be chuffed with me, Nathan. I'm drinking instant coffee.
I'm drinking brew coffee.
Likewise.
Am I allowed to do a plug?
Go for it.
Oh, look, go for
Brew
it.
Testament, best coffee.
Oh, Brew Testament. Great coffee.
Go see Jordan.
I made mine.
I didn't have time to go out and get myself a coffee today, so I was like, instant it is.
Yeah. We're really pushing to get those coffee sponsors. Like, I think we plugged Serapha's in our first one, and now Brew Testament. So,
well, if you're a business owner, coffee is a must. I don't think you can function without coffee. I think I don't know if I've met a business owner that doesn't drink like 4 or 5 cups of coffee a day.
If they say they're not, they're lying. It's not true. It's not possible.
They're on something else.
Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting. Hey, Nathan, I want to get a bit about sort of how you got into being a business owner and just a bit about yourself and things like that. Can you tell us a bit about just your story in coming into the business world itself? Because you've told me that you didn't want a business initially and you never thought about being a business owner. How did that sort of all come about and things like that?
Yeah, I did a stay-at-home dad thing for 3 to 4 years. And during that period, tried to use it to work out what I wanted to do. And I worked with a few friends in different industries, and seeing people who had their own business, I must admit it didn't really appeal to me. Honestly, like I worked with a close friend who would do 10, 12-hour days and then go home and do 3 hours paperwork. And he's like, you should get into this. And I'm like, you're not selling it to me. No. I won't go, like, long story short, trying to get back into the workforce. I got myself into a bit of a hole in terms of mentally. I had a lot of depression, trying to sort of get back out. And very fortunately, through my parents-in-law, got a job interview as a cleaner. And it was interesting because when he first called me, I was like, I don't want to do cleaning. Like, and it was kind of like that cleaning's beneath me feel.
Yeah.
And I went home and spoke with my wife, and I realised that it just got to the point where I had to get a job regardless of what it was, and I had to get over myself, put my ego aside and go. And I went for the interview, and it was a guy that I had met previously, and basically he gave me the job on the spot.
Yeah.
And what started was a 3-year job where I suppose I got back on my feet as a young man with a young family, and
How old were your kids at the time? Do you mind if I ask?
Oh, that's a good question. You got to give me some information earlier.
Sorry,
we were talking about
this. We were like, oh man, we were terrible at giving him any information about this thing coming up. We might have to get you back on again sometime.
Prepare for long pauses.
It's all right. Do you know what's good about the internet is this isn't live, so we can cut whatever you want out, and we can make the things shorter.
Good.
Yeah.
You know how you said 45 minutes?
I'm really good at editing, by
I want to say...
I don't know if he can make you look prettier though, Nathan. So sorry about that. Dan said he's good at editing, but...
Hey, we've got 3 beards on here. That's a pretty good start.
I know.
That's awesome.
We are off to a cracking start.
I must admit, mine is not what it used to be, so I'm a little jealous, Dan. So
thanks. It's a year in the making.
I like it. We had 3 kids at the time. Yep. So my second son, Jack, he was, I would say, he wouldn't have been too old. So then I probably had like a 3 and a 4-year-old, I think, if I got the math correct. So we had 3 kids, and I needed a job. I needed to get back into the workforce. So it was a blessing. It ended up being an amazing 3 years. The couple that I worked for were a great couple, great bosses, very encouraging, gave me a lot of responsibility over my own job in different areas, and sought to teach me about management. They felt like they saw leadership in me, and felt like I could do more.
They weren't wrong though, because every time you've had a job in other places, I was chatting with you yesterday, I think it was, you said you've always gone into management within those different respective roles. So whether you're in retail or in factories, you'd always worked your way up to management anyway. So they saw a potential in you, I'm guessing. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I also said it comes down to if you have a good work ethic and a good attitude and actually care, you can apply yourself to most jobs that are out there.
Yeah.
And it's one thing I wouldn't say I'm an educated person.
That's good, because you're on uneducated entrepreneurs. So
that's what we want.
I feel at home. School was a struggle for me. And I have an apprenticeship, but that was a struggle to get through. But I did achieve it, and I actually hated doing it for the second half of it, but it was purely about actually finishing for me, and actually completing it. And I think I've had those qualities that were instilled in me through my upbringing and my family, and so I could get into good positions, but there was always something that I didn't allow me to go further.
Yeah.
And I think I've shared with you, I don't, knowing what I know now, it's because I have leadership qualities, but I'm not necessarily the front person. That's not where my qualities lie, or I don't believe they lie anyway.
Yeah.
So what was the question?
So after we'll get back into, it's all good. We'll get back into the way you got the business. So after working 3 years for the cleaning company, they saw you in as a management or leadership role. Was it then?
So they started to encourage me and what I could do in the future, which was a big part of my journey anyway.
Yeah.
I hadn't gone there with long-term goal in mind. So we looked at different things. We looked at property management, which was what their experience was in. And obviously I had 3 years doing the maintenance and cleaning in that facility, and I had learned a lot about the industry.
Yeah.
And then basically it evolved into looking at small business.
Mm.
I had reservations because I knew of my own insecurities. I also knew not being educated I knew nothing about business, and so there was a giant sort of red flag, I suppose, in front of me, and but they continued to encourage me. My wife and my both our sets of parents were very encouraging and supportive, and so we eventually went for it.
Okay.
And we found this little cleaning business, and we bought it.
Yep. So it wasn't. I know. Oh, were you gonna have a question, Dan?
Oh, I was just gonna ask when he started in the business. So it was 3 years with the cleaning. Did you stay working with the original cleaning mob?
No.
Or did you stop and then go straight into your business?
No, I stopped and went pretty much straight over to the business.
How did you build up the courage for that? Because that's huge. Like, even when I started my business, I worked for another company for 6 months before I was fully willing to take that step into it. Like, that's going to take some balls. Like, that's especially when you were talking about how having to provide for a family. Like, what got you to that point of taking that step?
I've always had an amazing support network around me. Growing up, my parents were always there. I've got a brother and sister, and then I have a wife who's incredibly supportive and encouraging. And
incredibly educated.
Yes, but
she's not allowed on this podcast.
And I have parents-in-law who have treat me like a son, and have always encouraged me and supported me, and so having that sort of support network, and then going into an environment where I had a boss who showed 100% faith in me. It got me out of the hole that I was in and gave me that, I suppose, encouragement to have a go. And it was I would think it was a mixture of I need to do something. This is an opportunity that I don't necessarily have to work retail or something like. How do I get to a next level? And I knew I had to do something to broaden my experience and just try something different. And I think there were elements there that I could see my personality suiting, even though there are also plenty of elements where I was like, red flags.
What the hell am I doing?
But I was encouraged to sort of take a bit of a leap, and that I would have support, while getting used to business and how to do things, and so
that's cool. So I know you've gone through some pretty. Sorry, I've taken a lot of the questions here, Dan. I'm personally really interested in Nathan's journey, because like with the struggles of business, I know he's gone through a pretty intense time within his own business. Just the success story that he has of being able to even just keep the business afloat has been absolutely incredible. Because there was a bit of I don't know if you want to talk about this. We can always edit this out if you want, Nathan. But a bit of it's really up to you. A bit of,
or just
say
pass
if you if you ever don't want to answer a question, or if you ever just
should have given. You got to make up a big sign that you can send to us so we can.
Yeah.
Pass.
No.
Bugger off.
So, like, I know there was a bit of trouble initially in the buying of the business, like the business wasn't exactly what it seemed or something, and then, but even to the point where you were able to keep that, how long, like, able to keep it afloat, and like the story of that is something that I'm incredibly inspired by myself, because what you pushed through is a lot of what people wouldn't do. Like, it's your ability to be able to do what you had done without the education, without the understanding, and like, how did you? Do you want to tell us a bit about that story and how you actually got through some of those times?
Yeah, I will be a little vague in a few areas.
And that's completely fine.
long story short, the business that we bought wasn't what we thought it was. And there's I suppose there are things we weren't told about, and then if I reflect on myself, there was due diligence I could have done better. So that was a learning experience. Not knowing, not understanding enough about the books and how business works, and that was an area that I wasn't good at. And
you grew very quickly in that area, though. I remember having a chat with you about this, and you were like, "Peter, I just had to learn." So I was calling up the ATO, and I was like, "What can I do?" And I was calling up these people, and I'm like, "How do I get past this?" And like the steps that you physically took in order to make the company actually be able to stay afloat and even get ahead to where you guys are now, and the way you guys are as a company now, right? It was incredible for someone like me who's a lot younger within both age and in the business world. So,
so when we took over, we decided to use their accounting program. It was already set up. The gentleman who was helping me had a bit more of an understanding, and we sought to learn it. I had a manager that came. When I bought the business, there was 9 staff and a manager, and the manager was able to teach me an awful lot as we went. But it was that extra stuff that a small business owner sort of has to deal with in terms of actually checking, the money day to day, week to week, month to month, putting your tax aside, putting your super aside, learning about things like Q leave that no one had ever told me. I'd never even
that stuff's a nightmare.
Never even heard about it. It was a year into the business, and I got a call from Q leave saying, "Why haven't you paid your Q leave?" I said, "What is it?" And they said, "It's affordable long service leave." And I said, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'll put money aside myself." They said, "You can't do it. You've got to pay it by law." I'm like, okay.
wow.
So that sort of stuff. Like, there were many things I didn't know, and at the end of the day, I have to take responsibility for a lot of that. But what I did was, when it came to things like tax, what I wanted to do was go, well, I don't know, but as long as I'm making an effort to learn and being, I suppose, transparent with people like the ATO, then I knew I shouldn't get in trouble, long term. I had to be trying to do the right thing. So I spent many hours with the ATO on the phone trying to understand things,
and they were good, weren't they? Because I think that's an area where a lot of people, even myself, everyone gets a bit scared when it comes to the ATO, right? Or it's a bit like, because it's a daunting thing. They're the guys that can be like, "Hey, you owe us thousands and thousands of dollars, right? And give it to us now."
I've heard many bad stories, but I would say that 99% of my interactions were actually quite positive.
And do you know what, though? I reckon that's because of your attitude. That was your attitude towards them itself. Like, I know a lot of people that have had bad experience with ATO, but their attitude towards ATO was terrible.
Well, at the end of the day,
the
people who work at the ATO don't make the rules.
Yes.
They're just workers. I just work there.
I honesty and integrity are 2 things that are very important to me. And so in my whole journey, that was the 2 things I wanted to learn. The money was a big learning, and learning to send out invoices and that. So I just, everything that my manager would actually do, I would get her to teach me, and then I would do it. And until I felt like I learned it to a point where it had become habitual, then I could give it back. So we sort of had to juggle jobs for a while.
Yeah.
And it certainly took a bit of pressure off me learning the business, but in that I also needed to broaden my experience in cleaning. I actually only had 3 years cleaning, of commercial cleaning. So I was out cleaning regularly. I was out on every builder's clean, and I'd try and get to commercial cleans. And I am a big believer of being personable with your staff. So trying to actually spend time with them, and care for them as human beings.
This is part of the business that a lot of people don't see, is the nitty-grittiness of it, and the fact that I've speak with a lot of people who want to get into business, and they're like, "Oh, I want it so that people can run the business, and I can just sit back and do nothing." Whereas you're actively getting involved with your staff and was actually going out to the builders' cleans. Like, there's not many business owners that I know, or even people wanting to get into business, that are willing to actually get their hands dirty, for lack of a better terminology. They just sort of want to do upper level management without dipping their toes in. So that's something very admirable, that you're able to actually go, hey, I actually know what it's like to continue being a cleaner. And I was in there working alongside my cleaners and understanding the hardships and stuff that they go through sometimes.
Yeah. Would you say that you're still in that excuse me, or like
it has definitely shifted,
sort of thing, so you're not always on the side?
It's definitely shifted, but you've probably skipped a lot there, Dan. So we might.
I was.
You've gone from like the beginning and the end.
That was my next question.
So that's the end of the podcast.
No,
okay, thanks, guys.
Catch you next week, guys.
No.
It's not for wanting to understand things and learn was my goal. However, what ended up, and I agree with you, it is a good thing. However, it got to the point where I couldn't let go of certain things, and I was trying to do everything myself, because it was a bit like, I spent 3 years keeping a business afloat. We never grew. We didn't necessarily go backwards, but it was just survival. It was purely survival. How I did that, I don't know. I honesty and integrity is something I would put it down to, because I tried very hard to seek out customers.
Can you tell the story? There's a story you've told me before about when you first took on the company and you were starting to learn different things, and they were going to be potentially losing a client. Yes, so this is
that was my first day. My first day. So I'd walked in. So we had a two-week handover period. So the previous owner was still there. So this was the very first day, in the first hour, and they got a phone call from a client who wished to terminate the contract with the company. And I thought, well, what the hell? I'm the owner. I may as well have a go. So I took the call. I knew nothing. I was literally, as I'm answering the phone, I was asking for any sort of information and file. I literally knew nothing.
Yeah.
And anyway, I spoke to this gentleman, and basically what had happened is our staff had left their premises unlocked at the end of the shift. And it's premises that had a lot of very secure documents and stuff kept on the site. So it was a big mistake. And according to him, there had been absolutely no communication from our company, and the no one had even been to the site to talk to anyone or anything like that. They had fired one staff and reprimanded a second, and that, I think that was about the extent of it. So I listened to him, and I told him who I was, and I said, asked him if I could come and see him.
Nice.
Now, I didn't know a lot of that information at the time, so that sort of information came out later. I just said, can I come and see you? Love to, listen to you. And anyway, he said yes. So off I went. I was as nervous as anything. So I grabbed the file. I find out like who they were. I started Googling the company, things like that. Just things that a lot of people have. I've heard stories of people and I was just trying to put everything into practice. And went on, and I just listened to him. And then when he finished talking, I said, well, I'm very sorry that my company has let you down like this. Is there anything I can do? And he looked at me and said, no one has ever apologized to me before. And he said, the fact that you apologized to me and came and saw me face to face, he said, I'm going to give you a second chance.
No, that's good.
That's incredible.
And,
first day on the job.
So we had to make some personnel changes, and there was a few other things we had to do. And I drove back to the office, and I walked in, and the previous owner and the manager were sitting there, and they walked in, and I said, they're obviously gone. And I said, well, no, actually, they've given us a second chance. And both of their jaws hit the floor.
Yeah, nice.
And they couldn't believe it. And the previous owner, he actually said to me, in all his time, he'd never been able to win back a client like that. Yeah. And that was a really good lesson for me. I mean, I trusted my gut. I trusted things I've learned through my life, and it was, I think, trying to be genuine with people. The fact is that people make mistakes. I didn't even know the staff. I'd met the staff, but I didn't know which ones had done it. I didn't know. And it was an amazing learning experience for me on the first day, and I was able to have many other experiences similar. They didn't always turn around.
Can't win them all.
But no, you can't. And I mean, I eventually, after 3 years, I lost that client.
But you kept it for 3 years. That person was going to walk out that day that you turned up, and that's actually a huge, in my mind, that's a huge success story, because it's like,
I do think it was a win. And I mean, and more mistakes will happen, and everyone has their end of their tether. Yeah. And at the end of the day, my job is cleaning and managing personnel to do that. And you've got to have the right people, and you've got to try and instill that honesty and integrity through your staff, and hope that you have a consistency across your company, which is obviously a very hard thing to do.
Yes, it is. But I love that's a big sales approach that you did, and it's actually it's a shifting sales approach, which is targeting, it's client specific sales approach, which is actually spending quality time with your clients and making sure that you both are on the same page, not just within your company, but being able to understand what they need and what they desire is something that it takes time, and you've got to just, the fact that you went there and sat down, had that conversation with him, you were willing to sacrifice your time to be able to go and do something like that. Whereas it was your first day, you just rocked up. There was 1,000 other things you could have been learning at that point in time, right? It could have been oh no, this is just too much at this point in time. I can't handle it. But no, the fact that you're no, this is really, really important because it's one of our clients. Let's cut through the crap. Let's go. All right, I can learn this other stuff later, and let's go on to what I need to do right now. And that's a that's something I think comes from experience that you've got, and that's not just from business experience, that's from life experience as well, within working in management roles in retail and different things like that. So yeah.
So other than obviously that big first day stuff have you had any other sort of challenges throughout, I guess, teachable moments throughout, I guess, the first start and the middle, where you are now, that you look back and be like, I learned quite a bit there, and this is like what the issue was, and this is how I dealt with it? Is there anything that sort of stands out that you could possibly share?
So after about 3.5 years, I ended up, I burnt out, and it was, it all came to a point. I was struggling. I was trying to do everything myself. Money was getting incredibly tight with the business. And then so much so I had to let my manager go. That was quite an emotional thing to do. And that very night I tore my Achilles. And then it just seemed to be falling in on myself.
Yeah.
That came from, looking back, was learning to delegate better, and learning to, when you're trying to teach people how to do a skill in life, there has to be a point where you let them go and allow them to fail and learn from themselves. And I think I struggle a bit with that, because at the end of the day, every cent that we lost, I wasn't taking a wage. After 3 years, I still wasn't taking a wage, and it was putting pressure on the family. And I think it made it worse, because then the more pressure I was on, the more I wanted to control everything and try to do it myself. So it meant that I was trying to do the paperwork all myself, and I was trying to do the cleaning myself. So looking back, that was a tough lesson to learn.
How have you overcome that specific thing? I'm really interested in the mental health side of that. Like, how did you overcome that burnout? Like, because I know that's quite the journey I've gone through. Burnout, I don't know to the extent of, it might not be to the extent of what you went through, but I've also gone through something similar to that, and I'm really interested in people's stories on how they were able to navigate healing, navigate the healing process of a burnout, because it's not something that just gets fixed.
No, and specifically when you're so involved in it, and that was the thing, I couldn't detach myself from the business. I had a stubbornness that, I had to keep going. We couldn't just sell, we couldn't just walk away. It would have been devastating for us as a family. I was very blessed to have parents-in-law that were in a position that they could help, and particularly my mother-in-law started to come in and work alongside me, and then to the point where she came on full-time, and eventually are our business partners. And she had the experience in the business management that I didn't. So she understood the numbers, and she understood how to grow the business. She understood how to break our business down and go, these are our weaknesses, these are our strengths, and we over time had to learn to work together, and we learnt what my strengths were and what her strengths were, and not only that, but looking at weaknesses. And that took me time, and I would go through a period where over time I felt like I could relinquish responsibility, and I had to learn to trust her. I had to actually just give over cleaning responsibility to staff and go, and for me it ended up being almost switching off. I had to switch off because I couldn't be in that halfway zone where I still was looking over their shoulder, because then I couldn't help myself. I wanted to get in and just go, let me do it. We'll do it right.
That dynamic would have been really hard. I mean, I know when I brought a general manager on board, I had a lot of trouble with the letting go as well, and just trying to fix or work out the dynamic between being a business owner and having, like, because you've now got a business partner involved with your business, right? The dynamic between going, oh, this is what I'm strong at, this is what you're strong at, let's try and work together. That's not something that just comes about very quickly. How did you guys come to that sort of understanding on what the strengths are between both of you? So what your strengths are and what her strengths were, particularly within the business circles? Because usually when you get a general manager, you've got to get someone who's very strong-minded. You actually need somebody who's very strong-willed, who can go, all right, this is what needs to happen, business mindset. Like, it's good to have somebody in that role. For us as a general manager, she's a business partner, but she's also a general manager for your company as well. Is that right?
That's right. Yep.
So how did you guys come to that sort of conclusion between this is our strengths, this is my strengths, and this is her strengths?
There was a few very obvious ones, particularly around the books, where I had struggled, and when she came in, she was able to look at the books quite quickly and go and work out what was wrong, and actually start to put the money in the same place. So things like that were very obvious, and then I think over the time it actually came about me. For me, it was actually a big part was trying to heal, and so I was trying to still be in the business, but trying to heal at the same time. And so we would have a conversation, and we would sort of set ourselves some job parameters, and then we'd go away and we'd try and work at it. And I found over time that I was struggling. I would find that I'd have a go, but then there were just some things I was like, completely started to switch off from. I couldn't, we learned what some of my triggers were, and that what would really deflate me or stop me from, I suppose, being able to be productive. And I had to try and be as open and honest with her as I could, because it was kind of a new thing for me with the business. I hadn't, I suppose, had anyone to share it with for the most part, on the day to day. I could go home and talk to my wife about things, but it was later on where once Justine and even Dusty started to understand some of the things that had been going on in the business, and we got a better picture, and we're able to delegate that even better. So it's got to the point now where I don't do a lot. I suppose I consult a little bit, from my experience.
You do a bit of quoting here and there.
And I do a little bit of quoting and a little bit of admin, but I have for the most part stepped very well back. Both my parents-in-law have got it to a place where we are now very, very healthy as a business. We're profitable. We have good clientele, regular clientele. We've cultivated those relationships, and it's so going from the day I bought the business to now has been a journey of, I suppose, the word is a trial of survival, and it's come through to allowing, there was a growth period and learning to let go in certain areas for myself, but then having people with the right strengths. I've learned now that sort of management is actually not me, and that's okay. It's not that I don't have to be that person. My mother-in-law is very good at that, and my father-in-law is very good at operations and talking with people. and then I have that experience with the cleaning. So we now work very well as a trifecta, and I'm working in a different industry, which I'm falling in love with, and however, the process for me and in being able to sit back has allowed me to heal.
Yeah.
I'm in a state now that I never thought I'd get back to.
Yeah.
And I've had to remove myself somewhat to be able to learn how to heal.
Yeah.
I see a counsellor every 2 weeks.
Yep.
And I have been fairly regularly for a couple of years. I am medicated.
Yep.
And it's something that I'm not planning on giving up.
Yep. Can I ask what were some of the symptoms for you personally with burnout? Because I know burnout looks differently for a lot of people. The scary thing I think about burnout is, just from my experience, is that it feels like it comes on really quickly, but then when you reflect, there was actually signs of it coming. So what was your experiences, particularly with the business burnout, with having to do everything with? Hang on, I've got something like stuck in my throat. Every episode, I either cough or I'm like, I need to get a drink. So what was
so disappointed, Peter.
I'm just right. I'll see you tomorrow morning. I'll fight you then.
Oh. So,
jeez, all right.
No, okay.
That escalated quickly.
Anyway,
for me, fatigue, massive one was fatigue. The probably one of the best ways I could describe it is a cloud in my mind. I remember a day where I was the only one in the office and I had a lot to do. And I was aware of some of these symptoms, and so I had started taking notes in a certain way to try and help me remember to do things, because I was starting to forget. I'd just forget to do things, plain and simple.
Yeah.
And I would even forget the conversations, like leading up to doing those things.
Yeah.
So, and I sat down this day, and the next thing I knew, it was like 5 o'clock. And I had literally sat my entire day. I'd sat at a computer and I hadn't done a thing.
Yeah.
And it was incredibly distressing. I didn't know. It was just this cloud in front of my mind, and I couldn't break through. I couldn't even remember to open my notepad that was literally sitting next to my computer, which had all my notes in it that would have allowed... I wrote them in a way that would allow me to systematically work through a day.
Yeah.
And I never opened it that entire day. And that cloud stuck around for a long time. It affected my ability to talk. I couldn't formulate full sentences without forgetting words. And just general, like from there, anxiety, depression, that kind of followed with it, which I had previously suffered from, so that wasn't helpful.
Yeah.
Struggle sleeping, many nights not sleeping. You pace in the house. It affected my relationship with my kids and my wife, and impatience.
When you were not sleeping and you were like pacing, like, was it because you were thinking about stuff, or was it because you weren't thinking about stuff, or is there?
Yeah, inability to switch off.
Yeah.
Just couldn't. Your mind wouldn't stop racing, and even you go on holidays. You'd take 10 days holidays, and you'd switch off on the 8th day.
Yeah.
So you'd effectively had 2 days holiday because you just couldn't switch off.
Yeah.
And it was a skill I had to learn to be able to switch off quicker. And it's for someone who cares about things and what they do. I had the best way I could do to switch off was actually to stop caring.
Yeah.
Which,
right.
Because which was very unnatural for me. So.
Yep. Yeah, it would be. And do you know what, though? Running a business, I mean, I've spoken with a lot of business owners, and there's certain things that you have to just go, do you know what? I care, but you've got a certain situation. You just got to be like, nah, sorry, this is the way that you have to think very. I think that's where a general manager can come into really good play on certain things like that, where they're able to just go cut through everything and just go, nah, this is what's best for the business. Like, not getting emotion involved, not getting, and that's a lot of experience wise.
Yeah, you do have to be a bit more black and white.
It's a bit hard. I have trouble with black and white.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wait, yeah.
It's just the way it is. Yeah.
So, you go on, Dan.
So Dan, it's your turn.
I'm going to jump in here. Yeah, I'm going to jump in here.
I just have so many questions. Even though Nathan and I talk all the time,
that's fine.
I still learn so much off him.
The audience doesn't know. No, so you mentioned just previously, like just before that, you now looking into like a different sort of field or sector. Do you want to go into that a bit, like sort of what you're now working on? Because it sounds like you've stepped away, like a big step away from the cleaning business. Is your new area related to cleaning, or is it completely different? And do you want to sort of talk about that?
It's very different. I'm now working in the disability sector. So I'm a senior support worker of a SIL. And
a SIL is a supported independent living house, guys, if you don't know.
We've talked about them before.
If we have new viewers and stuff, we might just have to
Fair
re-clarify it. Have captions on the bottom for.
Yeah. Caring for people has just always been what I've enjoyed doing in life, and I think I started to learn more about who I was through the whole journey. My brother is in the industry, and listening to him talk, I suppose I found it inspiring and loved to hear some of his stories about his work and what he was doing. And I very much I had been looking into it, but when I actually started to work, it was not intentional at the time. I was actually helping someone out, and then it turned into a job, and haven't looked back. And it's allowed me to do both. I've still got a pinky in the business, but I really enjoy the industry. I have met some amazing people, and Peter.
You jerk.
That's good. That's good dig there. That was a good dig.
But the young bloke I work with is an incredible young man, and to be a part of his growth as a human is pretty special. And so I feel like when I go to work now, I get something out of it every day. I have purpose that makes me feel like I'm giving something back in life. Money's never driven me, which is one of the reasons why looking after the money in business never worked for me, because I suppose put people and the emotion first, and that's, I didn't look at it as the black and white and the business side. I couldn't. It just wasn't me to be able to view it that way. I don't have to think about that now, and I love it. I love that I can go and I spend time with a person, a human, and it suits me. It suits who I am, and it's allowing me to learn who I am as a person as well. I feel like I have a lot more identity now. So
we should get your participant on the podcast one day.
Nice.
He's got a little business that you help him run. So
I was just going to say, I'm like, have you got anything on the horizon, like business-wise, or you like don't want to touch it?
Yeah, probably shouldn't say much. My boss might get me in trouble. I'm sure he would actually love to come on and share himself. that would be amazing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, perfect.
You'd probably have to come on with
So,
him though as well,
helping.
that's right.
because you're a pretty key part in his business as well. So what I think is really
I can't completely get away from business. So
yeah, I was going to say what I think is really cool though. I think it's really cool that Nathan, even though he's a bit like, I don't know if I want to do business anymore myself in the future, he's still now helping someone with a disability in the next generation come through to, like, because the person that he works with, obviously being in a supported independent living house requires a lot of help, but helping somebody become independent within business that way and start to understand key concepts and things like that has taken a long time. But I think it's incredible that you can now use that life experience that you've got from running a business to now be able to assist other people in that sort of thing as well, even though it's not something you may want to do yourself, but you've got more experience there, which is
I mean, I enjoy seeing him learn and flourish. Like, maybe it just means that I'm a bit more complicated, but I found it very hard to get that personal satisfaction out of business. But seeing him learn and grow, gets me excited, and helps me get up in the morning. So call me weird, call me whatever, but it's just who I am.
And here's the thing, like, you still have, like you said, a pinky in your other business, right? So you're still involved with your other business, but this is an example of, even if you do run a business, you can set it up so that a lot of other people are doing the majority of the work, and you're still, like Nathan's doing, you've got a pinky in the business, and then you can go and do more of a passion as well. So Nathan's got into the disability sector because he's passionate about people now. So there's always that option to still have a business and still do other things as well. Like, business doesn't always have to be 100% of your life.
No, I mean it's important to earn money. We need money to live. It's not something that gets me up in the morning. And my dad was a pastor, and when I say pastor, that was his skill set, was pastoring people. His ability to love people, I don't think I've maybe ever seen before. He and that was what he was just blessed with, and I certainly feel like he passed it on to my brother and I. It just comes natural. Going through burnout, I can tell you what, there was plenty of times I didn't want to see people, but that was different.
Understandable.
And it freaks me out sometimes how similar your and my story is. Every time I chat with you, I'm like, what the heck? Yeah. I forgot that my dad was a pastor as well. So it's like,
you shave your head and you look better too.
Do you know my issue is I don't grow up here, so I have trouble with my.
Boris, I'm from Dan.
Just can't quite.
He's got plenty to say.
Or you. You've got pretty good coverage. It's not often that I'm in a conversation with people and I have the worst beard out of 3 people, so this is kind of depressing for me.
Do you want to talk about it?
All right.
Yeah, I need help. Can we have a coffee tomorrow morning, Nathan?
All right. Twist my arm.
Oh, that's great. Now we have cracked over the hour mark. Me and Pete were talking probably for like 9 minutes. So, Pete, was there anything else you wanted to, like, we're probably...
Yeah, I'd love to have you back on just to talk about just strategies that you've used and things like that in the future and things like that to get through business and through, like, the struggle of mental block and mental health and things like that with business itself, and just have more just of a yarn. I think there's a lot... Is there anything that you want to say, like, say, if you could give any advice to anybody who wants to start a bit, maybe a similar personality to you, right? Has that people first personality. Is there any sort of advice that you would want to give to anybody that wants to get started into business but does care a lot about the people, and it has a very similar mindset to you, where you're people first driven? Is there any advice that you'd give to them?
Oh, that's a good question.
We should have pretty easy for these
Well, I
questions.
mean, reflecting back, I wish I'd often thought about going to TAFE and like just doing like a little business degree or something, and just to give me some sort of taste of how a day-to-day business works. I literally knew nothing going in, and so that wasn't ideal. The other thing is that I was far too trusting, which doesn't come natural to me. I actually like trusting people, but I had to actually learn to be cautious, and I ended up creating a rule for myself where if someone was trying to sell me something or I had to make a big decision, I never made an answer on the spot. I always went home and tried to think about it, or talk with my wife, or talk to someone that I trusted. And that came late on and after many, many mistakes. I would say to someone like myself is do more research before you buy. Make sure that you're like when you're going through the business and you're checking, like get it checked multiple times. And make sure that you going in without experience wasn't necessarily a wise thing to do. And it was just it is what it is. Like,
but yeah, so it's been good having you on, Nathan. We are going to wrap it there. It has been over an hour long, which is a little bit longer than normal.
Thank you for having me.
We'll also post Pledge Cleaning's link as well. So we'll have that.
Send me a text with all of the links / things you want me to put in the description.
Facebook,
I'll chuck
stuff
it
like that.
all that.
Not that we get a ton of views right now because it's still a very new podcast.
Yeah,
when we
do, though,
you guys might be
they
a bit
want to know who you
overwhelmed.
Thank you guys for having me.
Not a bad problem to have.
All right. Awesome. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Have a good one, guys. Like and subscribe.
All right. Oh, yeah, make sure you hit the likes button, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. I'll do this again at the start, but I'll do that later. Anyways, have a great day, have a great week, and we will talk to you soon.